You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Ryan Szymarek.
Robbie, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Now, are you Indian with that last name?
No, it's Polish.
Polish. Well, why
Yeah.
don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and what do you do professionally?
All right. Well, I'm 42 years old. I live in Roxana, Illinois. It's about 10 minutes out of St. Louis. Real small town, like 2,000 people. And I live with my son. He's 13. And I work in the heavy equipment industry for a municipal supply company. What we do is we build all the cities and townships like municipal trucks, dump trucks, street sweepers, boom mowers, and pretty much everything that a city would use. And I just, I work Monday through Friday, day job. And then, on my time off, I coach and cook and really just spend a lot of time with my kiddo.
Which one, besides your kid, which one do you have more of a passion for?
Oh, cooking for sure.
Cooking. Now, what
Yeah.
exactly are we talking about here? Are we talking about the average? Like, I cook a nice salad. Sometimes I can heat up a nice hot pocket.
Right. Well, so my Instagram page is basically where I cook. And I do all kinds of crazy stuff. I try to take general food and kind of make it wild and kind of put my own flair on things. And then I post the pics, and I have a YouTube page where I do some, instructional cooks on there. It's just basically something I do when I have downtime.
But what's the food are we talking about here, Ryan?
Oh my god, everything. As a matter of fact, I just got done doing a fried block of feta cheese over like this bean ragu with a little honey drizzle. And right now I'm dipping into kind of worldly cooking. I just did some Korean bulgogi last week, and so I get to learn a little bit about food while I'm cooking it. And I'm all over the board. I cook a lot of spicy food. In the summer, it's pretty much all barbecue though. But in the winter, it's all over the map.
Where did the passion for cooking come across? Like, I'm looking at your Instagram page and I'm like getting indigestion just looking at it. Like, for me, I can't handle red meats well. If I eat red meat, I won't go to the bathroom for a couple of days. And just staring at your Instagram, I immediately start cholesterol levels start going up.
Yeah, it's funny about my page. When I do a cook, there's a lot of things I think about, and what I think about is, what's going to look good and what people generally like looking at. So I take that into factor as well when I do a cook. And I get asked this a lot. Do I eat all that food that I cook? And generally, I don't. What I do sometimes is proportion it out, and I'll eat some of it one night, or I'll repurpose it and make it into something else, because I generally try and eat fairly well. But like you said, if you notice in my Instagram, a lot of my food is very fattening and unhealthy, but it's kind of made for, the pictures.
It's the American way, dude. I'm looking at half of these photos and I'm like, they should all be taken on a picture of like American flag or something. I mean, dude, there's just something about barbecue.
Hmm.
I don't know what it is, whether it's the quality to it, whether I like if I'm gonna eat a burger, I like it nice and charcoaly. I really like that, that crisp black to it. I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people like, it's hard. I go out to a restaurant or something, you go out to Outback or some type of steakhouse or something, and there's always that person that's like, I want it bloody. I want it medium rare. I'm like, no, 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 no. I want you to throw that shit in the oven longer, like an hour longer than it's supposed to be. I want it crispy and black when I get it because I like a nice crunch to it.
Right. Yeah, that's my mom. She likes hers super well done. There's a happy medium, I think, when it comes to meat. You can still have it somewhat medium rare, as long as you sear the shit out of it and get a great crust on the outside, especially if it's a nice thick cut, you can kind of get the best of both worlds, you know. But I totally understand people not wanting blood in their meat. Um, I'm a medium rare guy. I think I like to just taste the meat itself. And like I said, if it's done right, you can also get a good crust on the outside. But, you know, it's preference. It's what everybody likes. And I totally get if people, you know, if red meat, you know, or the inside kind of turns people off. I totally understand that. So,
What type of food do you prefer to cook?
oh, man. I- You know, it's funny. My Instagram is kind of geared towards barbecue. I actually started a hashtag a while ago called Charcoal Nation, and it's kind of directed towards people that only use wood and fire, because then you have a whole other group of people that use pellet grills, and there's kind of this little funny war in Instagram between charcoal guys and pellet guys. It's more comical than anything. But generally, you know, like in my name, Rage Against the Kitchen, I typically enjoy cooking indoors, you know, whether it be, you know, like pasta, you know, or French onion soups or just things like that. Just everyday food. I have more fun cooking indoors, but um, you know, but barbecue seems to be a little more popular in especially on Instagram. So
I think it's more of a mouth orgasm, I would say. When you look at all the pictures of it, immediately you start going, "Oh my god." You start salivating a little bit. It doesn't really matter who you are. When you see something like that's really, really barbecued well. I mean, I grew up camping, so a lot of my favorite foods were stuff that you could cook on a campfire. I mean, my dad taught me some ways like, if you take a baked potato, you take a little bit of steak, you take shrimp, and you just close it up in tin foil and then put it over a campfire and let it cook. It sears and brings in a lot of the flavor and keeps it essentially inside of it. And it's something different. Like if you go and heat something up on an oven and then you take something, you bring it to the grill, you bring it to a campfire or something, you get such a wide variety of flavors in it.
yeah, foil packs are great on camping trips. And we used to do those as well when I was a kid. Yeah, there's just something about fire, you know, and I think, you know, like I said, in the summer when I do videos, there's something people like to see with fire and charcoal, and they make just better videos and better pictures. And you're right, it is. It's more geared towards what people like to see, I think.
See, when you start bringing fire into the picture, this is when we say this turns into an outdoor event. Because if you're trying to smoke your own food in your house, if you don't have a ventilation thing, you're basically knocking yourself out.
Yeah, you can't do that, no. I'm sure people have tried, but, that's generally not a good idea. You know, like where I smoke my meat, it's I have, like, a patio outside on my garage, but the back part of my garage is fully open and exposed that way, you know, like, in the winter, I can put a heater in there and I can still grill and still, you know, be pretty safe, so, um,
Well, I'm a,
but
I'm a very clean and like picky eater when it comes to my food. I'm a lot of like fish and everything like that. But I'm telling you, when it becomes warm outside, like especially during summer, but right now we're having those like winter summers where it's like 60 degrees or something out, and then one day it'll be like 20 degrees. People just pull out the grill out in their backyard and start grilling up, and I start smelling it through the whole neighborhood. I'm like, who the fuck is barbecuing, and where can I get an invite to the party?
Man, that's yeah, that's another great thing about, you know, smoking or grilling is the smell. I mean, you know, same here when I grill here, you can smell it on the whole block. And
It seeps
um
into your clothes, man. It's amazing.
it it does. Yeah. It's funny like when I do a heavy smoke, like if I do like a rack of ribs or something like that, when I go to take a shower the next day, you can smell the hickory or whatever, you know, wood I was using. It's like in your skin. It's funny.
Well, through all like your just experience, are you self-taught? Like, do you do a lot of like your own kind of finding out recipes? It seems like with a lot of cooks where it's becoming like a major thing now, you're seeing a lot of people start cooking from home and looking at their food more essentially. I think it's turning into something crazy like how it used to be.
Yeah, I do. So you know what I do basically. I'll kind of run you how I get an idea. Basically, it starts with a craving. You know, what am I craving? And what I'll do is I'll take that. And yeah, I am self-taught, by the way. it was just something I found a passion for years back, and it's been fun for me. So like I said, what I do is I'll get a craving. Like if I want steak, I'm craving steak. Like when I'm at work, sometimes at lunch I'll get online and I'll look up some steak recipes, and I'll keep in mind, I'll look at things on Google and then I'll see the pictures and I imagine what would look good on a plate. So from there, I start putting together some ideas and then I'll go to the store. And that's when I really start trying to put things together. I'll kind of just cruise the aisles and just see some things and just, vision what I think is going to taste good. And then it just kind of goes from there. So yeah, it's kind of a process. But it generally all starts, with like a craving, and I kind of just roll with that.
I find that like when you start like looking at barbecue a little bit more in general, it's probably the easiest option to be able to put, infuse anything with beer onto that. Like how many times you get like a bourbon flavored something, or you get like a bourbon burger, like a beer burger or something like that. It's so much easier just to dump it on the grill than rather if you're doing it inside your house, if unless you have like a skillet or something you can kind of cook it up with. But on a barbecue, it's just completely different kind of cooking method in a way.
Hmm. Yeah, and I use a lot of liquor in my cooking. Like, last week I did a burger in lieu of the UFC fight, the Conor McGregor fight. I did this Irish burger, and I did a braised onion and Guinness. And yeah, beer makes everything taste better.
That's true. And when it comes to the fact of how do you come across like your even with your cravings and stuff, like you ever get any weird ideas or you just see a recipe that someone puts up on like a picture or something, you're like, oh, that'd be cool to try that out.
Uh, yeah, every now and then I will see some things, but they generally just give me an idea, and especially with Instagram, I try not to imitate or copy, or plagiarize someone else's cook. But there's so much food out there that, if even if you come up with the idea, somebody's probably already cooked it. So, but yeah, I do. I visually see things sometimes, and then I'll start craving it. But what I do is generally try to put my own twist on things. And like on my Instagram, I'm known for using ghost peppers a lot. I like spicy food a lot. So I infuse the shit out of everything with peppers, hot peppers, ghost peppers, habaneros. So, I try to take basic things and just kind of put a twist on it.
And that's difficult too if you're using ghost peppers because that's like one of those overpowering peppers. Like you put that on anything, it's immediately going to spice it up a lot. So you got to make sure when you're you got to portion control that when you're adding it on top of your food, I'm guessing.
You do. It doesn't take much. Like I have a whole bag of frozen ghost peppers in my freezer, and even when you pull the bag open just to work with them, your eyes start burning, and you know all the other shit can burn too. So you got to be careful with that stuff. But yeah, a little bit goes a long way, especially with, ghost peppers or Carolina Reapers, or once you get up into that territory, then yeah, they get they get pretty hot.
What's the craziest thing you've probably ever cooked so far?
Oh man, I've done so many cooks. The craziest thing. Well, I've had a lot of fails too. That a lot of them didn't make the Instagram cut. But the craziest thing. I tell you one of the wildest things I did. I did a triple braided pork loin one time, where I took this long, huge pork loin and I cut it in slices in three, and then I triple braided it. And at the time, I had a barrel smoker and I hung it on hooks and I smoked this triple braided pork loin, and it was wild. It had the feedback was pretty good on that, but that was up there. That was a fun one.
I never really appreciated anything that was like barbecue or anything like that besides like a campfire thing. Mostly I was just like food's food. You just got to eat it, get it over with. But then my buddy actually, like, he's a real heavy meat eater guy, hunts his own deer, gets his own deer jerky and stuff. And he was like, I'm going to buy a smoker. And I was like, all right, man, you're going to buy a smoker. Okay, that's a waste of money. It's like, what, like $600 or something? He's like, yeah, and I'm gonna get special pellets. I'm gonna get all this type of stuff. I'm like, all right. I'm like, how long does the smoking process take? He's like, it kind of like a full day. I'm like, oh fuck that. Like, man, dude, 2 minutes in the microwave for a hot pocket's too much. And then he cooked something all day, and he made these. I don't know what it was. It was like wings or something under like using wood pellets in a smoker or some type of
Hmm.
grill where it was like flavored chips or something. They had like I forgot it was like an A1 flavor to it, I want to say.
Mm.
And he was like, "Dude, you got to try these. These are amazing." I'm like, "All right, it looks pretty good, smells pretty good. Let me try it." You didn't need to put any sauce on it. You didn't need to put anything on there. It was good by itself.
Yeah. Yeah, infusing smoke in meat is it's amazing, and then the process you get when cook something low and slow, the meat just breaks down and it's so tender, and yeah, a lot of barbecue doesn't need sauce. It kind of speaks for itself, especially if it's made right. But he was probably using a pellet smoker.
Well, even when we look at like all the food that comes out now, like a lot of it's supposed to be like, we're going to a society now where it's like healthier options, everybody. It's 2020. Let's kick in the year by being healthy and eating right, and let's do this straight juice cleanse diet. It's like, ah, that's not always the case, man. Sometimes, you need a little bit of good food, but the problem is fast food, all these types of things that all these restaurants that do stuff quick,
Hmm.
they do it a disservice, man. They do. People like you, like self-taught chefs or just cooks in general that just enjoy doing it and like love the whole process behind it. It's why you're starting to see a lot of people that become cooks is because we're looking at our food a little bit more closely.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned fast food. I rarely eat out, and it's for me it's a treat if we do. But every time we eat out, I just don't enjoy it, and then I'm like, why did I spend that money? Even for me, the stuff I cook at home is cheaper to cook at home, than go out and eat. And, as far as eating good throughout the week, I kind of have a trick I use. During the week when I'm at work, it's pretty routine. So I eat really good, healthy lunches. It's generally rice and like pork loin, or I do a lot of rotisserie chicken, and they're portioned very well. And luckily my job is real, physical, and I lift a lot of heavy things there all the time. I'm always on my feet. So the balance for me works out pretty good. Even during the evenings when I'm with my son, I don't eat really that bad. I eat, like I said, a lot of rotisserie chicken, and a lot of my cooks, like I said, they kind of get either sometimes I give them away to the neighbors, sometimes I, repurpose them, but so I kind of have a niche there. I'm not eating all this bad food, and I try to have some type of balance. That way, I'm not gaining a whole bunch of weight.
Well, the craziest thing is the fact is we sacrificed um I guess taste for convenience, what's good because I want something that's quick. I want something that's affordable. I want something I can eat and then go. You know what I mean? It's like
Absolutely.
you would have a way better experience of your food and actually enjoy it rather than just eat it because you're hungry or eat it because you need to fill something up. If you just took the time to go through the long process of it. Like I thought it was a ridiculous thing to smoke your food or have it in a smoker for a full day. But then once I ate the product, I was like, wow, like I'm eating it slower. I'm actually enjoying the bites. I mean, literally peeling this brisket apart or something. It's like it tears right off the thing. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, just people's general, they just don't wanna get educated on how to just make a few things at home. Like you said, it's convenience. People want things quick, quick, quick. But also some people are really, really busy. Some people have a lot of kids, and so I get that. I understand convenience. But I think, some people just don't really wanna spend the time to cook a bunch of food.
Well, even when it goes to the main thing, like you don't have to like if you look at, Chick-fil-A, if you look at any fast food place, you look at any restaurant, how many times you go there and someone's dumping something all over it? Like it's because it might not be the best that it could be cooked too.
Right.
Like
Right.
everyone's like, let me get 20 Chick-fil-A sauces for my chicken sandwich. It's like you're not even tasting at that point. You're just drinking soup. I mean, I get it. Chick-fil-A sauce is amazing, but
Mhm.
what about if you had a nice finished product that you cooked at home? I mean, if you have the time, do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But like for me, it's an outlet though too. I use it. So in the last, 6 months, I really, for a while, I was a drinker, real heavy drinker for quite some time, and in the last 6 months, I really virtually gave it up. I just I had some problems with it over years, and to do something else, kind of filled that void. And so that's another reason I don't mind spending, 7, 8 hours doing a smoke, or spending a lot of time on there.
Yeah, it's especially with like something like that too. Drinking or something that's of an addictive thing. You got to find an outlet.
Hmm.
You hear a lot of people turn to religion. You hear a lot of people turn to a hobby, start doing something else. And cooking is a great aspect of it too. The amount of information you can pull off by just looking up a recipe and then changing it up yourself. I
Hmm.
mean, if we had to talk about like some of your worst experiences just with cooking in general, like what have you made that has really stuck out in your mind? Like, damn, that was a terrible go at things.
Oh, I've had several. I can think of one now. I did this. I tried doing a smoked Greek rack of ribs, and I rubbed it in Greek yogurt, and dairy and smoke just didn't go. It just turned into a mushy mess. The pictures turned out okay, but it was horrible. The yogurt like turned into like cottage cheese, and
Ah, that's what see,
it
that's what we say, that's just for the Instagram, that's not for taste.
right. Well, yeah, and it was horrific. But I've had a lot of fails, a lot of stuff that I cook, and sometimes they'll look good, but they don't really taste good. But people don't really know that. So as long as the picture looks good.
See, with like me being like kind of like I'm eating a lot of like the same stuff every single day, I get crazy idea for recipes. I mean, just randomly out of nowhere, I'm like, dude, if you just toasted that for a minute, add a little bit of like, oregano on top of that, and then you like, dude, hell, you could toss like a little slab of like maybe a little slice of butter on top of that and just let it melt on top. Like, bam, you would have yourself an amazing experience. And my buddy's just looking at me like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's just that quick, like, looks at me like, "You don't even eat anything like this. Why how would you know what it tastes good?" Then he eats it and he's like, "Dude, this is amazing." I'm like, "Right?"
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own preference in food, and that's the fun thing about cooking is you can do what you want. You can put in it what you want, and that's kind of how I live when it comes to cooking. Is there's no rules. I like to mix food from different regions, and I think people tend to stick to one thing rather than just try some new shit. I mean, you can go wild. You can just try anything you want, and one person may like it, one other person may not. It's just personal preference, and everybody has different taste buds.
Now, even when we're talking about going wild, have you ever thought of an idea that's a little bit crazy that you're kinda wanting to try?
Uh, this summer I revamped my barbecue smoking area, and I have a lot of ideas. Especially this past winter, I've been learning about food from different regions. So what I'm gonna do is really try to take smoking and barbecue to the next level by introducing it to things from Korea or Ethiopia or, South Africa. And that's another fun aspect of when I cook is I'm also learning about, new foods and how people eat in other areas of the country. So that's another enjoyment I get out of it is I learn every time I do something new. So nothing too wild in the future, but I think just trying to change the way people barbecue.
Yeah, figuring out that if you pair certain things with certain items, you get a whole different flavor profile of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of ingredients out there that, you can get that people just don't know about, or things you can put together again that people don't know about. So I think that's the idea this summer is to really try to focus on that.
What types of ingredients have you figured out go together? I'm curious because I wanna change up, the way I cook a little bit.
um, sauce wise, I do a lot of sauces lately, and I've recently been working with horseradish a lot and lemon juice and light mayonnaise and just making this typically I think they call it Alabama white sauce, but I kind of put my own twist on it by using again ghost pepper, habanero. But there's something about lemon and horseradish and just a little hit of mustard and some light mayo that just goes great on everything. I mean, you can eat it with fried potatoes, you can eat it on steak, you can put it on fried chicken. So, every day I'm trying to find new sauces or new things that go together that can, be versatile on different types of foods.
I know, at one point I sliced up a bunch of pineapple and I actually fried it in a skillet with, some of my fish.
Mhm.
Dude, the amount of flavor change that was experienced from me eating that fish was amazing. It was something like you didn't need to put any spice on top of it. You need to put anything on there. Do a little dash of lemon on there, man. You hear that nice sizzle in the pan. Like that's a nice sound.
Yeah, it's crazy. You can take fish and it just make some subtle changes to it by, you can put a little blackened season on it. And like you said, with pineapple, you can make a simple pineapple salsa and it just takes fish and just makes it, 50% better. It just gives it some pop.
And even when we look at barbecue too, like how did we label that as an outside event? I get it, it has to be outside, but whenever you think of a football game, a tailgating party, anything, it all involves barbecue food. I mean, I remember so many times when I was a kid watching the Ravens game with my dad at like a friend's house, something there's a giant tailgate party going on, and we're sitting there like, food's on, we're gonna be cooking up wings and all these things. You have like a million things on this one barbecue grill, and the next thing you know, someone's like, let's get that nice charcoal taste in there. Sticks a thing of lighter fluid in there, and the flame goes all the way up. You're like, you can't do this inside the house.
No, no, absolutely. I think, barbecue generally is coined from history, just cooking over an open fire. I mean, it's been around for ages, and I think it's just kind of transpired into how we do it today. But generally, barbecue has, always been, due to the historical fact of literally just cooking meat over fire.
And I'm from the East Coast. I'm from Maryland, so like our giant thing down here is we have crabs,
Oh,
seafood. So what we do is when we're doing, we dump Old Bay on everything. Okay, that's a legit thing. That's not just some stereotype. I dump Old Bay probably on a lot of things, but I remember this one time we were cooking crabs. I was probably like 12 years old. My dad bought a bushel. And, me and him are the type of guy like that's something that we need to start making so we can eat it because we will sit there all day and eat a bushel of crabs by ourselves.
hmm.
And we get to this his I guess his buddy's house, and I'm like 12 at the time, and I'm like, all right, so what are we doing? He's like, well, I'm gonna cook these up and this, and then it's gonna take a little while, but we're gonna infuse it with some Old Bay, and we're gonna get this going. I'm like, all right, cool. He's looking around. He's like, he forgot to leave me the fucking tongs. I'm like, so what are we doing? He's like, welp, I'm gonna stick my hand in here and pull each crab out one by one, and I'm going to put them in here so we can have crabs. I'm like, why don't we just wait? You said he's only 30 minutes out. He's like, I don't have time. I don't have time to wait. We're doing this now. I'm hungry. I want to get this going. I'm like, all right, man. Next thing I know, I see him using needle nose pliers and like these wrenches and stuff to try and pick up these crabs. And crabs are running all over the place, just crawling around. He's like, get up on the picnic table. I'm like, oh my God, this is turned into experience. My crab's gonna have rocks all in it. He's like, it's gonna be good. Trust me.
I would love to have a place where I could get crab like you guys have. Like down here, we have no seafood. Any seafood that comes in Illinois, it most likely has to be shipped in from overseas, or from down south or from where you're at. So that's why a lot of people up here, you just don't cook with seafood up here because there's no good seafood. Even the fish that you get, is generally farm raised and flown in from, you know, overseas. So seafoods is something we just don't get a lot of down here. But I would love to be able to go up there and have just a kick ass crab roll.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, man, having a crab feast in general, like when you break it
Oh,
open, like people say, like, what's that? That yellow stuff. I'm like, that's the crab's poop. And they're like, what? I'm like, that's the best part. Like, what do you
oh
mean? I'm like,
yeah.
it's mustard, basically. It's amazing.
Yeah, I lived in the Florida Keys when I was, I guess 18 to 21. I lived in Key Largo, and that totally changed my view on seafood because down there it was full of fishermen, and these guys would go catch the fish, and they'd bring it into a restaurant, cook it right there. I mean, this shit was just caught within an hour before you're eating it, and down there the Keys is the sport fishing capital of the US, and man, some of the fish they had down there, from mahi mahi to yellowfin, just everything, it was just unbelievable. And
Well, I feel like I rarely travel. Like I think if I've been to Vegas, been to Hawaii, been to, like those places like on a vacation or something. But it's like to experience a whole nother places or just a state in general, their whole thing is completely different from them where you're from. Like I'm on the East Coast, I'm nothing but like fish. There's not a whole giant source of red meat down here. We live right by, I mean, I have the ocean on one side and the bay on the other. So it's nothing but fish. It's nothing but seafood constantly. Meats, like it's just regular, like stuff you get from like a store. It's nothing like, farm raised or anything. And then you go out more into the countryside, like Alabama and stuff. It's nothing but like shit that wouldn't make me, go to the basically wouldn't make me shit for like a week.
Yeah, it's funny, but there's different food everywhere. And like even here, barbecue is different. We do a thing in Illinois called pork steaks. And what it is, it's thin sliced pork butt that you grill and you generally baste or you can boil it in sauce. But you get out of Illinois and no one's ever heard of a pork steak. They're like, pork steak, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, you
And
saying that literally just gave me the stomach bubblies.
yeah. So, and then you go down to Texas. I have a lot of friends on Instagram from Texas, and those guys can throw out a fucking whole brisket and like with no problem. And brisket's one of the hardest things to smoke ever. But those guys know barbecue. I mean, they just can throw down. But again, they've never heard of a pork steak. It just varies from region to region.
Does this ever spark an interest for you to travel at all? I mean, just being able to experience a bunch of different flavors and kind of enhance your flavor profile a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. I think that'll come later on in life. I'm kind of I I'm pretty routine here, with my son because I'm raising my son, and I got to get him to where he needs to be. And I coach his soccer, I coach his baseball, and so traveling right now just is really hard for me. And I would love to travel, and that's something that's definitely in the plans, but not for a while. He's in eighth grade right now, so I've got at least another 4 or 5 years before I can kind of venture out and start doing things like that.
Which places in particular are you thinking about going to? I always figured myself like I would want to. I'm a big sushi fanatic. I know I already have seafood down here, but I want to go experience the real thing. I would definitely want to travel somewhere where it was done authentically, if it was overseas or something.
Yeah, I love sushi as well. And again, it's hard to get good sushi here because of the quality of the seafood. Obviously, I'd love to go to Napa in California. I've never been to California. I know that Napa has some amazing food. I'd like to get up to the Northeast, kind of up by where you're at, and try some of that amazing crab.
Dude, we'll have a crab feast, bro.
Oh, that sounds great. I'd love to get down to Louisiana and try some Creole and really learn, like you said, about Old Bay. I love Old Bay seasoning too. But those guys take, Creole cooking to a whole new level down in Louisiana. So, especially with spicier foods, that's kind of the route that I would go. But Napa's definitely on the list, and getting up to the Northeast is also somewhere, something I'd like to go to.
Even with the cooking and everything, have you ever thought about turning this into a business? It seems like you could do a lot with the, I mean, the amount of stuff I could see on your Instagram, even if you say it might look good on Instagram, but it might not taste good, but like a lot of this stuff, like you have it seems like a passion for it a little bit, man.
Yeah, I do, and I appreciate that. And it's definitely in the plans. And to be honest with you, that's Instagram has a lot to do with that. What I'm doing on Instagram is I'm preparing myself for a restaurant. And Instagram helps me get out. When I do the videos, it helps me speak to people. And I'm learning how to cook, a little bit better. And not only that, I'm building a brand. So a lot of my friends are like, God, why in the hell would you want to sit and take pictures of your food all the time and post them? But there's kind of a plan behind it. And even with Instagram, I mean, I do get some perks from doing these cooks. I work with different companies. They'll send me products, and all I have to do is basically hashtag their products and kind of mention them here and there. And so it's a good, working mutual, agreement between a company and an Instagrammer for food. So essentially, yeah, a restaurant is definitely something that I'm gearing for. But again, I just have to wait a few years and make sure that my son, gets to where he needs to be until I can really put the time and effort and focus into a restaurant.
Now, what would you say the best combinations for like a steak or a burger in your opinion would be?
Best combinations as far as
I've had an egg on a cheeseburger and it's pretty damn good.
I I love a good breakfast hangover burger with a sunny side egg up on it. I that you nailed it there, man. A good burger with a fried egg on it is amazing. For me with barbecue, I love putting coleslaw on top of barbecue with barbecue sauce. Something about the vinegary, creamy sauce in the coleslaw just goes amazing with that hit of smoke and that warm meat. I believe that's Carolina style barbecue, but I love coleslaw on barbecue. And you're right, egg on a hamburger is absolutely amazing, and avocado on a hamburger is great too.
I don't know about the avocado, but all right, I was with you. But I like there was this one thing my dad's friend taught me that you can like slice open a hot dog and put like a little slice of cheese inside of it and then cook it in there and have it kind of like soak into the hot dog. Completely different thing than if you just put a slice of cheese on top of a already cooked hot dog. It's a completely different. I know it sounds weird, but it's literally a completely different taste.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it probably melts into the meat, because all the juice is inside the meat. So the cheese probably redistributes the cheese all the way through the dog. So yeah, that totally makes sense. That's probably delicious. I don't eat a lot of hot dogs, but that's probably pretty damn good.
I mean, the amount of stuff that I just start thinking of when I start looking, especially like I'm scrolling through your Instagram, I'm like, man, you could take fries, you can incorporate that on the top of things. Cooking anything and infusing it together is completely different than if you just add it on top of something. The whole flavor profile usually changes with it. I mean, putting a bacon on anything, I think, is a good call. I'm just, that's just me, maybe. But it truly is a lost art in a way. Like cooking's starting to get relooked at, which I really appreciate. And even the thing with barbecue now, you're seeing people go out of just they're tired of the same shit all the time. I mean, it gets old after a while. Yeah, it's more convenient to get fast food. It's more convenient to get a cooked meal already, or it's more convenient to go to the store and get something out of a box that you can heat up real quick. I get that, but when you go and you have the time to, why wouldn't you just take the time to create a better quality product?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think people cook a lot more now too because they have access to, internet outlets that show them how to do it rather than just going off an old school recipe card. If you want to learn how to cook something, you can generally just hop on YouTube, search it up, and boom, somebody's cooked it. And then you can just follow suit, write down the measurements, write down the ingredients, go to the store, pick it up, boom, you're done. You've learned how to cook a kick-ass dish just by watching a video.
Yeah, I mean, how many times you read a cookbook and it's just the same bland shit all the time? That's why so many people that make cookbooks are trying to create it in a whole new way. They're trying to be like, well, you can do it this way or you can do it this way. But it's like, let's get a video because all of our learning now comes off YouTube. When my car broke down in the driveway, I looked on YouTube and I fixed it. You know, everything there's a tutorial for. And that's what's pretty cool. Like your videos and stuff, you're kind of showing people like the ropes. You're showing people a little bit like this is what you can do with that and showing them the process too.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's fun, just to take some knowledge that I've learned and hopefully, show somebody else that way they can do it too. So, it's kind of promoting cooking because, you want people to cook at home a little more, I think. And it's better for you. Like for me, it's something my son can watch. He watches me cook, hopefully he'll pick it up here soon. And every now and then he'll jump in and help me out. He hasn't really got into it yet, but I imagine that over the years from watching me, down the road that he'll pick it up and that way if he's single he can he can cook for himself. He don't have to wait for a good home cooked meal.
I could probably tell them the same thing that everybody's told me when I was a kid, and I never really appreciated until I got older. It's like you enjoy what you're eating, you know what I mean? Enjoy what's like going on around you, take in these moments because you're gonna appreciate it when you get older. I mean, the fact is you're cooking him some good ass food that he's like, oh, this is just common, this is this, and then when he gets older, he's gonna figure out like, whoa, what the hell? Like we're not having barbecue every night, we're not doing these exotic meals.
Yeah, he's funny. He doesn't eat a lot of the stuff I make. He's not quite yet adventurous on a lot of food. He loves barbecue. He loves when I make barbecue. That's definitely something that he's into. So he's pretty spoiled on the barbecue. But he's at 13. He likes simple stuff. He'll butter noodles, salami sandwich, chips, ice cream sandwiches. He just likes stuff that kids like. So he hasn't really gotten into that adventurous side of food quite yet.
He'll definitely. I mean, I don't know how many times my dad was cooking steak, cooking shrimp, cooking whatever. If it was shrimp, I'd have some. But if it was like steak, rice, potatoes, eggs, all these types of things, I was like, I'm good with the chicken sandwich out of the freezer into the microwave, like that type of thing. It made it easy to shop for. But dude, I regret it now. How many times I'm looking back, I'm like, damn, what I would do for a nice steak right now.
Yeah, it's funny. My dad was probably one of the worst cooks on this planet. My dad raised me by himself when I was younger, and I grew up on a fry daddy. I don't know if you've ever heard of one of those. But what it is, it's a little kettle that you plug in your kitchen and you put oil in it and you just fry everything in it. So my meals growing up as a kid were a lot of tater tots, a lot of crinkle cut fries, pizza rolls. He just was not a good cook and he had no interest in it. So I think that's another reason that when I got older, I kind of took up a interest in cooking is I think I got burnt out on eating shit out of a fried daddy.
Hey, I got burned out on it too, but let me tell you, you take a nice box of taquitos in front of me. You bet your ass I'm eating up some taquitos.
Oh yeah, late night snack. Well, sometimes you just got to eat that stuff, and I call it resetting. Especially for me, sometimes I get tired of cooking, and it's nice just to do something simple and just have some fattening shit. So yeah, don't get me wrong, I won't pass up some pizza rolls and, like you said, some taquitos, or toasted raviolis. Those are big down here in St. Louis. But
Have you
yeah,
ever tried taking one of those things like pizza rolls and making your own combinations? I've seen you experiment with some pizza too. Like, how do you come to this like idea thing, or even just like the process of cooking it? You got to have some type of thing that's like, maybe I could do this a little bit better.
Yeah, I do, and it's funny that you mention that because, that I just mentioned toasted raviolis. I had an idea for breading up, tortellinis and frying those up, and you just gave me an idea with pizza rolls. I love that idea. So that's what I mean. There's stuff out there everywhere, um, that you can kind of take and make your own. And another thing I was going to work on this summer was taking some of the favorites from some of these fast food places and recreating it, either on the grill or inside, and just again put my own twist on it. And I noticed on Instagram again that people like to see stuff like that. I know one time I recreated the Mexican pizza from Taco Bell one time, and that seemed to go over pretty well.
Have you ever thought about creating your own cookbook?
Uh, yeah, I've thought about it. And again, that's something that's in my head, but that would also be, down the road. And I keep saying down the road is, and I think the reason I do that is because, like I said, I'm so focused on my kid right now that if I do these things, that's just my personality. I'm either all in or I'm all out. And when it comes to doing things like that, I want to be able to really put a lot of time and effort into it. And like I said, right now I'm so focused on the coaching and my son that I just wouldn't have the time to really dedicate to something like that or a restaurant. So definitely down the road. But yeah, that's definitely something that I would be interested in doing, and it would be fun as well.
Well, even though we talk about down the road with the restaurant idea too, now you've had to had one idea of what you would style or even call your restaurant. Come on.
Well, it's funny because I look at I actually do have an idea for a restaurant here where I live, and when I think of a restaurant, what I first do is I think of what is here already. If I'm going to come up with something, I got to make sure that there's not other ideas of that already around. So, being as I like to barbecue and I love to make sandwiches, that's one of my favorite things to do. So I think if I went the direction of a restaurant, I think I would start with a simple sandwich shop, but it would be a barbecue sandwich shop, So I would get to make sandwiches and people would get to taste the barbecue. And it's something that would be fairly a low cost startup. It wouldn't take a huge building. So when I think of a restaurant, I kind of, I look at how many people are here, how many restaurants are already here, what would people want? Like we already have a good barbecue restaurant just a mile up the road. But we don't really have a good sandwich shop here. We have Subway, but that's not a good sandwich shop.
Yeah, like down here we have like what if you want ribs or something, got to go JR's Ribs, which is like a buffet place. And then what you oh you want a good place to go out to eat? How about Denny's? It's like what the fuck? Like I don't want to go to Denny's unless it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm hammered.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you go to Denny's when you're all fucked up and it's 3, 4 in the morning and you just load up on omelets and shit. But yeah, there's not much around here to eat either, and there's not a whole lot of unique restaurants. So if I did something, it'd have to be something unique, and it would definitely be something that I would want to put my own personality into, as far as even interior decorating. It would have to do with a lot of music because I'm a music lover, and so I think just being able to come up with a good idea and really put my personality into the restaurant is kind of the idea that I'm going with. But basically, until then, what I'm doing is I just keep practicing.
Kind of keep honing the craft a little bit too. I mean, you're already better than I think a lot of people. I think it just takes the time and effort, you know. It takes the patience, obviously, to be able to cook something for extended period of time and actually make it taste good. But it's all through trial and error too. I mean, not like you were saying before, you've had a lot of failures. It takes for a lot of people, that's not easy to kind of swallow or be able to say. You know, a lot of people don't ever want to feel a failure. That's why we don't ever try new things. It's like sometimes you gotta need that failure because it's only gonna make you better.
Yeah, it's funny when we talk about failures. So I owned a bar. I've owned two bars in my life. I bought my first bar when I was 24, and I had that for 2 years. Um, and it's actually where I met my my wife, my ex-wife, and the mother of my child. We met at that bar, and I was really young. She was really young, and I was drinking really heavy at the time, like most 24-year-olds do. And
Well, it doesn't help you own a bar either. I mean,
no, it doesn't.
my dad was a DJ and he drank all the time and he ended up, getting off of it and everything. But he's like, you know how hard it is to be an alcoholic trying to get sober, and the fact is everyone's handing you shots every single night. I'm like, yeah, it's like literally, let me just get a tattoo, even though I'm allergic to tattooing.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, it was virtually impossible, and I loved to drink. So when you're at a bar, it's like you're a kid in a candy store. You can drink as much as you want because it's your business and, it's free. So, my business was good. At that time, I tried a little food, but I never really put a lot of effort into it. And so, like I said, I had that for 2 years, and then we got pregnant with my son. So I sold it, bought her a ring, we got married. I had decent success though in the 2 years I was there because I was decent at running the bar, but most of the time I was just fucked up and drunk, and so getting out of there was a great thing to do. And then so I bought another bar, I guess 6 years ago, and that was pretty much the kiss of death for me because that ended up basically, getting me divorced. But uh, eh, now that place did have a kitchen, and this would have been a great opportunity for me to really put out some food because they had a decent kitchen. And like on Fridays, we did these fried tacos. We'd sell them for $1, and there'd be nights on Fridays where we'd sell up to 2,000 tacos, eat in and carry out. And but this is something that the bar had had for over 50 years, these tacos. So when I bought it, I had inherited the recipes. It wasn't my idea. And again, I failed at that bar because of my drinking. So I've had two failures when it comes to the bar restaurant area, but I'm willing to do it a third time because I'm at a point in my life now where, drinking's under control, and now would be the perfect time to actually go ahead and go for it. So third time's a charm.
Yeah, well, I can tell you're way more level-headed too. I mean, I might not have known you back then, but just hearing the way you've talked, like you're obviously know where your focus is. Your focus is with your son. I mean, that's a priority, obviously. A lot of people tend to lose, especially, people get busy, people get kind of like, oh, I need to do this for myself. And that's a major thing. And just you even be able to say that, like every time I ask, like, what about a business? What about travel? Most people would just explain it, but you were like, I got to care for my son first. That's so important. And that speaks a lot to me too, because sadly, I mean, you're their biggest influence, man. You got to understand, like as a kid, your parent is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I lost my dad suddenly 6 years ago. He was 60, and he was a huge influence on my life. And was he the best dad? No, he wasn't the best dad. He was a single dad for pretty much all my life, up till I was about 13 or 14. We worked together, in the family business for several years, which wasn't that great. We didn't have that great of a relationship when we did that. But when I was growing up, he was definitely somebody that was very influential, and he was a overall good dad. So, when it comes to my son, I think what I did is I took maybe mistakes that my dad did, and I tried to correct those. I just would say, he did these things. I don't want to do those things. And yeah, you're absolutely right. He is the number one thing in my life because, you know, kids, you can give them advice, but what they're doing is they're watching you. And, for me, when all those years of drinking uh, kind of caught up with me too, because he got older, he kind of recognized what I was doing. And I think sometime last year is when I really started to realize that he sees me doing this shit, and I definitely don't want him to have problems with it. So I made a point to really just stop. I started going to therapy once a week to try to find out why I was binge drinking. And it was the best thing I ever did. So I owe him a lot. He inspired me to just become a better person. And that's what I do. Even when it with the cooking, I just try to improve every day of just being a better person or a better cook, or a better dad or a better coach. So I think life is all about growth. And uh, you know just accepting your mistakes and learning from them and moving on.
And that's, I mean, that's the most inspirational thing I've heard, I think, all day. The fact is, it's amazing to see that too, because when you kind of see that and you kind of grow from him, he grows off you. I mean, he's hopefully he's gonna grow off some of that meat you're giving him, all that protein, dude. I'm telling you. But also being able to learn too and figure out like this is something he can incorporate in his own life when he becomes a dad. And like you said, you didn't want to be like your dad. You're showing him like what it is, what the difference is. You know what I mean? Maybe he didn't know your dad or something, but you're showing like you're improving yourself, he's improving you, all these types of things are kind of going into this perfect scenario. And I really appreciate that too, because, for me, both my parents worked. So it was like I was spending a lot of times, heating something up or doing that. But man, those experiences are the moments that you have, like, even though he might not be, super into them now or being playing video games, doing his thing, he's really going to appreciate those when he grows up. And I think that's something that you should be proud of.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And like you said, yeah, that's what we do. We kind of lean on each other, and not only that, we have an absolutely great time together, because we're both goofy and zany, and we both have the same sense of humor. And for me, it's fun. Like last night, he's got the flu right now, which sucks. But we sat in his room and we rented a real funny ass movie called Good Boys, and we popped up some popcorn, had ice cream sandwiches, and just laughed our asses off for 2 hours. And then we got up this morning and went to the doctor, and that was it. And for me, after a long ass hard week of work, uh, it's a great way to just relax, is just kicking back with him.
Exactly, dude. And like I told you before, remember you told me, like, hey, man, we got to reschedule. I'm like, it's perfectly fine, dude, because family first, man. And that's what's important.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because I was really looking forward to this, and but yeah, I had to take care of him and make sure he was good, but he's good. He's a tough one. And that being said, I think when I was drinking a lot, when I was binge drinking, what would happen to me was I would basically drink the whole weekend away, and I would, like, even if my son was here, I'd sit out in my patio and have beers, and I'd miss out on a whole night of fun with him.
That's the same thing with kids too. I try and tell them it's not like they're going out and drinking or anything, but it's the whole factor is you're on your phone. Yeah, it's fun then, but you don't want to miss out on the moments. You don't want to get nostalgia off your phone. Like I remember so many times if I go outside, if I smell a campfire or something, I immediately get flushed back to when I was a kid on a camping trip. And it was just those experiences are stuff you're really going to appreciate when you get older and when you don't have the opportunity to have those moments anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's why I took a lot of interest in coaching the sports too. Is I'm able to get these kids out of their house and get them off of Grand Theft Auto or what's the other one they play? Oh, Fortnite. Oh, Jesus, that game.
Don't get me
Uh,
started on Fortnite. That's
oh
one
man.
game I will never play because I saw how many people were taking that crazy.
Oh, it's nuts. Yeah, that's that game's something else. But and like my son skateboards, we just got into skateboarding. I started skating with him because when I was younger, I skateboarded for about 7 years, and that's something we do together. We just try to do things to get them out of the house here and there. Because I think kids nowadays just typically seem to spend way too much time on their phones or indoors.
I got to see a father son barbecue business popping up.
I love that idea. Yeah, that would be fun. Like, and as a matter of fact, with my YouTube page, I just got into that, so I'm learning as we go on that. But he's done the YouTube pages before, so he's able to kind of teach me how to do some things on there. So,
I know that kids know more about technology than I think a lot of us do for some reason.
oh, they're on top of it. I guess because they use it every day.
My cousin makes stuff in Minecraft. I'm sitting there like, how the fuck do you do that?
Fucking Minecraft's great. Have you ever played that game?
I have.
I think of all the games, that's one of the better ones because, at least there's a level of creativity that you use in the game. And you can build some really cool shit on that game.
He built a house and I built a house, and he was like, dude, you didn't go 3x5. I was like, fuck do you know about 3x5? You're 6 years old. Don't give me
Right.
that.
Yeah, at least they're learning something. But no, I don't play video games. That's not really my thing. That's his thing. I don't even watch television. I don't even have cable in my house.
Too
Uh,
busy barbecuing and doing other important things.
Well, that and to me, cable TV is a waste. There's just nothing on TV I enjoy. Like now I have an old record player in my living room. I'd rather sit and listen to vinyls than waste my time watching shit on TV.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is getting dumbed down to trash, but it's finding really what you need to do to kind of pass the time too, and not lose a lot of those moments too. I really appreciate you, coming out and doing the podcast, especially like with your kid and all being a little bit sick too. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's definitely fun.
I want to give you here a minute at the end to kind of promote your content, Ryan.
Okay. Yeah, so my Instagram page is Rage Against the Kitchen. You can also catch me on YouTube at the same name, Rage Against the Kitchen. Same at Facebook, Rage Against the Kitchen. And I generally post about once a week. My stories on Instagram are generally pretty full, and the stories are kind of comical. I try to kind of jazz them up a little bit, and there's a lot of music and things like that. But yeah, you can check those out.
Well, thanks so much for listening to this episode Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.